Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars look like a totally different team in a 17-17 tie with New Orleans. We'll tell you all about it in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Man, oh man, it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it is your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. We have been covering this team for 2 decades. That's right, 2 whole decades of Jaguars coverage. So I think I'm pretty, good at telling you guys what's been going on with my finger on the pulse of the team. Shout out to the everydayers who join us each and every day. We appreciate you. This is a postcast edition. There'll be 2 halves of this show, and here's what we'll be discussing. Tackling is a problem. Tackling is a big problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the open field. That stuff has to be cleared up because we are looking for things that we need to get right before the season starts. We're going to talk at the top, though, about Trevor Lawrence and the offensive line. I think they did a very, very good job today, and this is a really good team. Not going to bog you down with stats. Not going to talk too much about the score, although 17-17, the Jaguars pretty much dominated this game when players of significance were in the game, even though both teams had players who did not play or start. And then a little weird sequence at the end kind of like ruined a really good day for me. It's like I had a great time and then I got pulled over and got a DUI, right? A block away from my house. I was right here sitting here with my headphones on, ready for that game to end. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 2.5-point favorite, allowed New Orleans to tie the game up, but then had a chance to win the game with a makeable field goal, but backup, threw a ball up that ended up being deflected and intercepted. So now you get a 17-17 tie. And the big thing about that is you just wonder why Liam Cohen didn't just kick the field goal. I mean, it was like on 56-yarder. You got a kicker who can make it from 80, but hopefully it was just one of those things that won't be a reflection of things to come for the Jaguars. I'm going to talk about the good. The good in this game for me was the fact that Trevor Lawrence was 8 out of 10 for 76 yards. One of his balls that he had dropped, that he incompleted, was a drop by Brian Thomas Jr. I'll get on that in just a second, too. The other one was a ball that he clearly threw out of bounds when no one was open, and that's also a good thing. So I was more impressed with that incompletion than I was with a lot of his throws, and that's because in the red zone in the past, Trevor would try to force it and would make a mistake. This time, he sailed that thing right over people's head and out of the end zone. The only person who could have caught it was a Jaguar, and he would have had to be Randy Moss in order to catch the ball. So sometimes you can have a negative thing that ends up being a good thing if you think about the context and the historical significance of it. Let me get on the Brian Thomas Jr. situation. Is it a big deal? No. Is it kind of a big deal? Yes, that he dropped that ball, and I'll tell you why. How many games did the Jaguars lose or lose momentum that ended up being a loss because somebody had the drops? Remember, Trevor Lawrence has more drops than anybody in the National Football League since he's been here. You don't really worry about BTJ very much, but this is what you don't get the benefit of when everyone says you're great. When everyone says you're great, you can't drop balls. You got to make every single play. The routine has got to be made all the time, okay? And you got to sprinkle in some non-routine above the X's and O's spectacular plays also. So Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be held to a different standard. Once you sing the praises of someone, that means you're holding them to a different standard, right? The standard here is that those are balls that everyone catches, because during the regular season, when you're playing against better teams, that could be the thing that gives you a 3 and out. And maybe your intent is to make that team that you're playing against stay on the field so you can wear the defense down a little bit and keep the ball from the Patrick Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons, the people that are going to wear your defense out. So that is a big deal. but it's not really a big deal. But I wanted to point that out because we ain't all sunshine and rainbows. But the thing I like about Trevor Lawrence and the offense and the way that it looked today, and I'm going to temper this with, I know it's preseason. I know the Saints didn't play a lot of folks. But I'm going to tell you what I was happy about. I was happy because everything looked intentional. It looked like every play that was called wasn't necessarily called to set up the play behind it. It was called because it was a good play and they needed to execute that. But when they get those 5 or 6 yards on first down, right, then the call behind it made sense. And it appeared that these things are a sequence of plays as opposed to just being, let's just throw everything to the wall and see what works or to see what sticks, or no, it's none of that. There's sequencing going on here. We're going to do this to set this up. And we're going to do that to set this up. And it was a thing of beauty. He got his foot stepped on by an offensive lineman and he fumbled the ball. It'll go down as a fumble for Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's telling me, Wig, you're saying it's a fumble, but I know the guys, he got his foot stepped on. In the stat sheet, it's going to go down as a fumble for Trevor Lawrence because there is something he could have done. He could chalk it up to live to see another day instead of trying to get the playoff. You're in the red zone. Your awareness is we got to come away with something. And I believe that was a first down. So you would have had 2 other opportunities to score. Just go ahead and eat that negative play, man, when that happens, and don't compound it by making it worse. The running game looked very, very good. The offensive line looked very, very good. Brenton Strange looks like he's going to have a big year, and he's going to do it in the middle of the field, unlike the tight end that they had the last few years that caught a whole bunch of balls, but he caught them all outside the hash marks. This is a guy sitting down in the middle of the zone. This is a guy who knows where the sticks are, turns, gets the ball, and he doesn't avoid smoke. He turns right up the middle of the field, and he gets to it. Those are very good things. Parker Washington scored the touchdown. Once he catches the ball, he turns into a running back. But the thing that I loved about Trevor Lawrence more than anything else is you can see the coaching. You can see the improvement. You could see the eyes and the feet. And he took a lot of little stuff. Take those 4 or 5 yard passes. Get a down and distance situation that is favorable. And then we just keep living to see another day. Hank Stram says matriculating the ball down the field, and that's what it did. It just looked like everything had a purpose. And that's on Liam Cohen. That's on the Jaguars offensive line. They were missing Anton Harrison, but they still look pretty good. We'll talk about the defense. There's a big play made by Trayvon Walker, and that was something to behold. That was a very, very nice play by him early in the game. But we're also going to point out a little bit of the ugly, too, some things that, quite frankly, you want to try to fix if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars as you get ready to head into the regular season. So we'll do that in the second half of this postcast. We'll get to it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what exactly works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real, personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Everybody has these catchwords, narcissist and depression and healing. They all tell you all of those things, but none of them are really, really qualified to give you a diagnosis. And with over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people, and they are qualified to help you get through. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And today's show is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and my crew at Showtime and Playmakers, we're right there on Yahoo Fantasy because that's where we've been for 18 years. We start drafting next week. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give the new mode a try. If you're more into the classics now, you can still play head-to-head private leagues or join public leagues. All right, here's what you do. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/locked-on. Second half of your postcast coming in here, 17-17 tie with the Jaguars. Anton Harrison didn't play at right tackle today, but Pat McCary did start at right guard. Offensive line looked fabulous. Now, I know everybody's going to say I know who they were playing against, but it doesn't matter because the alternative is they could have been playing against them and not look fabulous. So the win here is that you did what was expected of you with your starters. And that's in and of itself, that's a big thing for the Jaguars. You expect something, you go out and you do exactly what's expected. It could have been another situation where they were expected to play a certain way and then they go out and they didn't. And we've seen that over the last 2 decades a little bit too much. The defense, which was much maligned against Pittsburgh, playing against backup quarterbacks and backup skill players, were nowhere to be found last week when receivers were running wide open and the Steelers were basically going up and down the field on the Jaguars the way the Jaguars went up and down the field on the Saints. Trayvon Walker, Dewey, wing guard, early in the game, got rid of that foolishness. Dewey with a sack early in the game on a blitz where he came around a corner. Trayvon in some sort of a twist and a little bit of a stunt where he went in and he banged up against whoever was guarding the 3 technique, and then he slid in between them and basically forced the quarterback, Tyler Shuck, to get a grounding penalty because Trayvon was all over him. And that's what they need to see more of and continue to see that. It does not surprise anyone who has seen Trayvon in training camp this year. He looks fabulous. The defensive front looked like they got some pressure. They were able to stop the run early. Then you saw something get exposed on subsequent drafts. And what that was were guys that had chances to make tackles in the flat, to make tackles for certain losses, to actually get sacks behind the line of scrimmage. On at least, I don't think it's 10, but I know it's more than 5. On about 8 different times during this game, you saw tackles that could have been made where guys did not get there. You know how when you're making a tackle, they've been telling you your whole life, get there quickly, but you have to buckle down. You have to bear down and square yourself up while you're trying to run through and get your head across the bow. The Jaguars just either took bad angles. It was Darnell Savage doing it. I saw Chad Moon do it once. They took bad angles, and then it was time to make tackles. Christian Braswell was guilty of it. They just didn't make the play. And these are against backups. You do that against other people, it might be 6. Those things have to be cleaned up. So what I think is going to be the red ball, meaning the one thing, the biggest thing that when they come in, they're going to have to clean up. They're going to have to clean up making tackles. And I'm sure you're going to see some open field tackling drills this week in practice. That is something that has to happen. Got to get your angles down right. It was pretty much routine things too, man. And guys were really, really missing a lot of tackles. But Dwan Smoot made a great play, shows that I think he has been the best of the vet additions along the edge position. I think he's flashed a lot more than Emmanuel Ogbah has. And he looks really, really good. A little bit concerned for these linebackers now. Devin Lloyd whiffed on a play, then came back and made another play. He also stayed in the game a little bit longer than most of the other starters. And there was a lot of questions. Okay, what are they trying to say? They ain't trying to say nothing. They're saying it. If we still got you out there, we need to see something. He made a play. Cool. Is it enough? I don't know. They got one more preseason game before they have to really, really get people to the point where it has to start really coming through, like who they're going to keep and who they're not. And I'm telling you, I'm not sure about Devin Lloyd. I'm not sure about Chad Muma. I don't know if they have a replacement for them, if they can make a move or something with people they're already familiar with. I'm not sure about Darnell Savage one bit. Whether or not they're going to cut him or not, I don't know, but I'm not sure that he is going to be able to help them even if he isn't cut, because I just haven't seen it in now 2 years. And there were plays that were not made by him that you typically would expect to be made by veterans. Another thing of note, Tank Bigsby started the game even after he got the first. He returned the opening kickoff, and then he came out and he was the starter. Does it mean something? Damn right, it means everything. If we did not see Travis Etienne, who also played well, after that, I would have said, no, they're just giving Tank a look. This might be what they do. And it might not matter very much because maybe they're going to play both of those guys equally. But it does say something. They're not doing things just to do them, okay? Both of the other running backs, Bashaw Tootin as well as LaQuint Allen, looked the part. LaQuint Allen looks like he was born, like he came out of the womb to be a third down back. And Bashaw Tootin is a dude that looks like he can give you a little power and a little speed as long as he holds onto the ball. And he did that, and he got him a touchdown today. So a lot of positives for the Jaguars, a couple of negatives, and that is that tackling is a bit of a problem. And then situational football with these backup quarterbacks, they got to do a little bit better. They got to do better with protecting the football. And, obviously, if you get to your depth at quarterback, you're going to be struggling anyway. And we all know that, and we all totally understand that. All right, man, so here's the deal. The Jaguars tie, but in the eyes of fans, they won. It could have been a little bit more sweet had it not ended with a little bit of a gaffaw, if you will, or a guffaw, whatever they call it. I'm going to put that on Liam a little bit because he didn't even have to line up to run that play. He could have just kicked the field goal and they could have walked off. It's not their job. The line was 2.5 for the Jaguars. It's not their job to be worried about the line on games, but it is what it is. All right, man, make sure y'all tap in to Locked On Jaguars each and every day, especially tomorrow. We'll have more on this and get into more detail about what we saw here today, about Liam Cohen's comments after the game, to make sure that we get you all the information that you need as we get closer. One more preseason game left, and then the next time they play after that, it's going to be for the real deal. I'm Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. It's your team every day. Make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. We'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars.